So we will start the session. So I request today's speaker. I introduce CMA Amit Apte sir. Uh, he is having more than 24 years of post qualification experience in the field of costing, MIS finance, accounts, and ERP system implementation. He was president of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India for the year 2018-19. He was also chairman of AARC for the year 2010 and 11. He was Central Council member for the period 2011 to 2019. He is a director of Lever Consultant Private Limited and Lever Info Solution Private Limited. He is a partner of Joshi Apte and Associates Cost Accountants. He is a member of Independent Evaluation Committee constituted by IBA under RBI's framework for revitalizing distressed asset in the economy. Also, he is a member of RBI Committee on Cost Governing Banking. Also, he received special acknowledgement of efforts and contribution. He was All India ranking in CMA final examination. He also topped in Pune University in Diploma in Taxation Law examination. He is a qualified company secretary. He is having global experience as well in UAE and Egypt. As far as adventurous, he did independent trek to several Himalayan destinations, including Mount Everest Base Camp, state level representation, and meritorious performance at table tennis tournaments. And many things are there to introduce Amit Apte sir. So herewith I request Amit Apte sir to take over the session again.
Thank you, Shrikant. First of all, it's rather disappointing that only 77 participants are there in the program so far. I was about to start the program with a congratulatory message to you that last 4 sessions of Pune chapter, we crossed 100. In fact, many could not attend the meeting because there was a limit of 100. And because of that, we have increased the limit to 250 now. But of course, I am still confident that as the meeting progresses, we will definitely cross 100 because already we are at 85 now.
Yes, generally the trend is up to 615, we will cross minimum 100, sir.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So I must congratulate the entire managing committee of Pune chapter that they have been arranging, not only arranging very good programs, but also giving very good exposure to the programs that are being conducted. And many members as well as students are showing a lot of interest in the various programs of Pune chapter. So let me just share my screen with all of you. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my introduction has already been done by Shrikant. So what I intend to do today is over the next 2.5 hours. It depends on how many questions are being raised by the audience. But over the next 2.5 hours, I intend to take you through a bit of the problem that all of us are facing today. What has happened in the last more than a year? What is the impact of that on us as individuals, us as cost accountants, whether in practice or whether in service, the industry overall, the economy overall, and then how is it that the situation that the industry faced because of the COVID has caused a lot of cost-related issues, and how we as cost accountants are required to tackle those issues, how we are required to present the costing in various product costing or in the various annexures to the cost audit report. So you are all aware that last year, sometime in March, the virus hit India, and there have been several rounds of lockdowns. We just are out of the second wave of the virus infections. So far, we have crossed over 3 crore infections and lost a lot of our citizens. A lot of our members have also faced either infection, and some of them, in fact, we have lost them as well. So my condolences to all those cost accountants as well as citizens who lost their battle to the COVID virus. But I say that despite what happened in April and May this year, which was in terms of numbers of infections as well as in terms of the overall deaths, we were far ahead of the numbers of last year. But still, come June, and once the things started opening, everyone is back to their normal life. Of course, you are seeing a lot of precautions being taken, but life goes on, and I'm sure that even if the third wave, as is being predicted, does come to us, we will come out of it much stronger. That's my gut feeling. So I understand that Pune chapter has been conducting a series of lectures, especially on cost audit. This is the second lecture in the series. I think the first lecture was conducted by Neeraj Joshi, and that was on cost auditors appointment and report writing. So I will be covering the treatment of various items of costs in the light of the COVID-19 related lockdowns. And so, as I said, the overall economy and the pandemic, there has been a lot of impact on the global economic prospects, and they have certainly worsened conspicuously. India, for the last first 2 quarters of 2021, did show a negative GDP growth, and similar was the case with most of the countries across the globe. Of course, because of the lockdowns, there were a lot of layovers, a lot of unemployment, and in fact, some statistics suggest that India alone, as many as 11.4 crore unorganized sector workers were rendered jobless. So, because of the lockdowns and severe impact on the businesses, a lot of bankruptcies are also expected. And if that happens, naturally what is going to happen is it's going to put a lot of pressure on the banking sector. Of course, our RBI has taken a lot of proactive steps right from last year's April, and they have infused a lot of cash in the overall banking system. Also, many of the distressed loans have been rearranged, and at least so far there have not been any bankruptcies in the banking system. But I'm sure that if at all the economy is not kick-started, there is a very good likelihood that some of the industries which are already in distress and which have survived the last year because of the various measures taken by RBI could land up in a serious bankruptcy situation, and that will lead a lot of pressure on the banking sector as a whole. On the government policy making side as well, there has been a lot of uncertainty as far as the policies of the government are concerned. Naturally, because there have been a lot of changes, day-to-day changes in the happenings. In fact, on the 1st of February, when the budget for the year 21-22 was announced, that was perhaps one of the best budgets since 1994, and it was welcomed by the entire industry and majority of the economists as well. So it was a growth-oriented budget, which was the need of the hour. But unfortunately, March, once again, the numbers started increasing and we had to once again go into the lockdown. And naturally, the government has not been able to implement majority of the policy decisions and the expenditure that it intended to undertake during the current fiscal year. Now that the numbers are once again down, the vaccination program is once again going great guns. Just on the point of vaccination, I must congratulate once again Pune chapter. I understand that they have entered into an arrangement with a local public services trust, and they are arranging for the vaccines to all the members and students of Pune chapter at a very nominal or even at a free of cost. That announcement might happen anytime soon. This information was shared with me by the chapter because our own Bhargave sir and Sadanand Shahane, who is also our member, have been instrumental in arranging this for us. So sorry to digress, but because of the vaccination point, it suddenly struck me that I must congratulate Pune chapter for taking this initiative. There has been, because of the excess funds that have been pumped into the system by the RBI, and also because of the increase in the prices of fuel, there have been increase in the inflation, both in terms of retail inflation as well as the wholesale price index. It is one of the highest over the last several years, and at 5.3% for, or rather it is 6.3, it's a mistake over there, it's 6.3 for the retail index. And RBI has projected that the retail inflation index for the entire year is likely to be around 5.4%. There has also been a lot of repatriation because many have lost jobs, not only in India, but across the globe. And all the Indian citizens who are NRIs and who were working abroad, some of them have lost their jobs, and naturally there has been a high level of repatriation of NRIs coming back to India. So just a couple of years back, I think in 2018, India recorded the highest ever repatriation of dollars by the NRIs, but unfortunately, last year has been the highest number of NRIs who themselves are coming back to India. The GDP for the last year also has shrunk by about 7.3%, and of course, the growth estimates by all the rating agencies, including the RBI, has been quite encouraging for the year 21-22. And even though the earlier estimates were something like 10.5%, they have now been, because of the second wave, they have now been put at 9.5%. But still, it's a positive sign, and most of the economists and the global rating agencies are looking at India in quite a positive manner. There have been a lot of challenges faced by us cost accountants as well. One of the prime challenge has been the access to the data. Because of the lockdowns, all of a sudden we had to shift our offices to our residences, including the staff has been working from their own residence, and having access to our own data, which is there in the computers lying at our offices, and also getting data from the client, both have been quite a lot of challenges we have faced over the last year or so. The impact of technology has also been there. As I mentioned earlier, many of us, of course, have been or rather most of us have been using computers and laptops, but still this scenario has definitely caused some more technology to be used by all of us. And we are slowly getting used to having the online meetings instead of physical meetings. I don't remember when was the last time that Pune chapter, or for that matter any chapter across India, conducted a physical meeting. And so we have to naturally adapt to the current scenario. The working from home has also been a challenge to many of us, because the kind of environment which is there in the office, the facilities which are there right from the chair, the chairs at our residences are not designed so as us to be sitting on that, working on our computer for hours together. And that has really caused a lot of problem to many of us. Of course, some of us have invested in setting up a mini office at our homes. Those who are in employment, their employers have helped them purchase some furniture so as to make them a bit comfortable working from home. But still, this has been a major challenge, and so has been the overall impact on our cash flows. As I mentioned, last year when the initial lockdown was announced, for the first 6 odd months, there were definitely a lot of decrease in the inflows, because all the companies were also planning to reduce their costs, manage their own cash flows. Those in employment also faced a lot of cash crunch, because there were some sort of salary cuts, some sort of deferment of salaries, and naturally the cash flow has been a issue. Of course, the cash flow issue to some who have lost their jobs or lost their assignments was even more severe, and we had to face all those scenarios during the last year. Apart from the actual loss of assignments and jobs, there also have been deferments in the assignments. A lot of assignments have been postponed. For those who are in employment, there have been a massive reduction in the job opportunities, especially those who cleared the December 2020 examinations. They must be facing a lot of challenges in getting themselves good employment. Because this year the institute has not been able to conduct the placements as well, the way they used to do it over the last few years. Of course, about 400 to 500 of our newly qualified students did manage to get jobs through the placements alone, but that was majorly thanks to 2 or 3 major recruiters. If I name one, it was Accenture, who picked up more than 100, 150 of our fresh qualified practically in a matter of 2-3 days. And that is why we were able to reach that number. But having physical placements as we used to have till last year was not possible this year. And there have been a lot of challenges for the institute and naturally for the students as well. So I have already covered this. One problem which I have noticed, which I specifically wanted to highlight over here, is that there has been some sort of undercutting amongst us professionals for getting new assignments. This was initiated because some of us have lost some good assignments, or there have been reduction in the fees. But I'm sorry, if this kind of an undercutting trend continues for a longer duration, it will be very, very bad consequences for our profession in times to come. Of course, this is not only to the CMA profession. I have observed some sort of undercutting in the other professional as well, and long term it could land all of us in some challenges. Of course, there has been a lot of change in the practice or the jobs over the last year. And one of the change has been we have adapted very well to the use of technology and adoption or automation. In fact, I know a few practicing cost accountants who have successfully, I think someone's mic is on.
Shrikant, I think you may mute him.
Parasnath Singh करके है कोई. Shrikant, can you mute him? Yeah. Thank you. So I know a few cost accountants who have successfully installed firewalls and VPN networks in their offices, and they have started working from home without any requirement of going to the office. There has to be a overall focus on the value addition rather than compliance, which also this trend has also started coming to the practicing cost accountants, especially because many of us have understood that the companies or the corporates are not looking only at compliance, but it is the value addition that we cost accountants can bring on the table, which they are interested in. And naturally, those kind of demands have started coming in from the industry as well. And that is where I must once again bring to your notice about the performance appraisal report that used to be there as a part of our cost audit report long back, I think till 2014. And I think we should go back to the performance appraisal reporting, even though it is no longer mandated, but it would be useful for the clients and the industry. And let me tell you that wherever we have been giving this report, it has been very well appreciated by the board as well. And that is the need of the hour today, because every company is practically facing a lot of challenges as far as managing their costs are concerned. And this kind of value addition through the performance appraisal reports will definitely go a long way to help the management and also increase our own standing with the board of the companies. The networking model of practice is slowly catching up. Just to give you an example, earlier to handle some assignment, say from Pune to the north, say in Delhi, we used to send our team from Pune. Now that is no longer possible, and we have to look for a practicing cost accountant there in Delhi. So naturally, the networking amongst the practicing professionals has certainly increased, and so has the challenges about the dependency on a single supply source. So we cannot any longer depend on a single source of supply. We have to have alternatives, as many alternatives as possible. Insurance is one thing which a lot of us have started looking at from a different angle. Not only the life insurance or the mediclaim. The mediclaim insurance was something that every one of us, even those who are not taking those, have now are having the medical insurances. But many cost accountants have also started taking something called as the fidelity insurance to take care of any grievances that the clients could have with us. Especially in the work from home scenario, there could be some mistakes that could happen, and those will definitely be taken care of by the insurance. As far as jobs are concerned, there have been consolidation in the various jobs, and the cost accountants who were doing a certain roles have been given some additional roles because of some kind of a retrenchment, or in very rare cases, even in case of deaths, instead of new recruitment, which normally takes anything between 3 to 4 months for him to come on board and be trained on the job. So the existing team is given additional roles, and that has affected the overall working hours of all of us. Earlier, when we used to be in the offices, we used to say reach the office by 9 and be out of the office latest by 6. That is no longer happening. Meetings are being conducted as late as 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night as well. Some of the meetings start at very, very early, and because of the additional responsibilities and also some lack of productivity because of the work from home culture, we have to extend our working hours. Of course, these increase in working hours have been to a certain extent set off by the time that we have all saved on the travel. And another aspect which is there is that overall, if you look at it, the last year 2021, there have been much higher savings for all of us. Of course, when I say all of us, all those who have retained their jobs, even with some sort of a cut in the salaries, we have managed to have higher savings because there are no longer any avenues for us to spend. Practically, the weekend outings have not happened during last year, and the malls and theaters have been closed, and naturally, a lot of expenses have been reduced. Apart from that, there have been a reduction in the rates of interest on the loans, and also the way investments are done. So those of us who are relying entirely on, say, something like the fixed deposits can no longer rely on them, because the rates of the fixed deposits are as low as maybe 3 or 4% these days, and that has brought many of us in the stock markets. Over 1 crore new demat accounts have been opened in the last year, and the prices of the various shares have been continuously going up since last June. And the only reason is that many new investors are coming in because people are having some additional funds because of higher savings, as well as the RBI bringing in money. That money is coming to the stock market, and it is no longer reflecting the true reality of our economy. With that, I come to the next part of my presentation, and which is the impact on the industry and the business. This is of a lot of relevance from the point of view of the allocation of the cost, and how do we give the treatment to the various cost elements because of the losses that have happened because of the COVID pandemic. So just let us go through the impact it had on the industry, and try to assess where all there could be additional costs or losses that have been incurred by the industry. So the first and foremost thing that has happened is that there has been a loss of production, sales, and capacity utilization. So there has been a drop in the demand as well as supply. It's not that it's one-sided. In certain situations, there is demand, but there is no supply. Those kind of situations are also there. Of course, certain products, there has been substantial drop in demand. For example, the clothing. No one has really required to purchase new clothes during the last year or so, because we are not meeting each other, so we are not going out. So why the need for the clothes at all? So there has been a lot of cancellations of orders. There has been a disruption in the inward supply chain. Primarily, the suppliers have also faced a lot of problems in terms of lockdowns, in terms of non-availability of workers, skilled as well as unskilled labor force. You all are aware that majority of the workers who are typically from the northern part of the country, from say UP or Bihar, which were here in Maharashtra, went back to their towns, and they are still not returning. So naturally, there have been impacts on the productivity of the companies. Then those companies who were able to manufacture, in case of any breakdowns in the plant and machinery, they were not able to repair it. Because the maintenance guys, the right technicians were not available, the components which were required for the repairs and maintenance were not available. And same was the situation with certain jobs which have been outsourced to the job workers. So the challenges are there with the job workers also, and they also have not been able to service the demand wherever the demand is there. And of course, there has been overall fall in demand due to the loss of jobs, due to the fall in incomes, or a change in the economic and social considerations. Like the example of the new clothes which I gave you, those are typically economic and social considerations that each one of us are doing and postponing our investment or purchase decisions. That is the reason why the real estate is also quite stagnant, and so are the so basically all the discretionary expenses we have postponed them or deferred them, and that is having a major impact on the demand cycle in the various industries. Apart from the demand, of course, there has been disruptions in the outward supply chain due to the lack of transportation and other logistic facilities also. For traveling from one state to the other, there are a lot of challenges. Still, there are a lot of challenges, and the logistics has become a nightmare to quite a few manufacturing units. On the cost front, the impact of the business have been quite severe. The costs have increased in not just the fixed cost but also the variable costs. And there are several instances where the material cost has also increased. For example, there could be some perishables which are lying either in the warehouse or in the production, and those perishables had to be thrown off. Naturally, the cost of those items has increased. Similarly, there has been a lot of higher storage costs because, especially in case of perishables, the companies had to have cold storage higher, and because of sudden spurt in the overall storage requirement, cold storage as well as dry storage, the cost of storage has gone up substantially. Similarly, the supplies have been held up in transit or in ports. So in cases of imports, the typical time that is required to release the material from the port and get it to our plants has multifolded, and that has naturally added some transport related, freight related cost or demurrage related cost to the overall cost of bringing the material to the plants. In case of labor as well, there have been some escalations in the costs. Number one is there has been an increased health and well-being cost of employees and workers. So the companies are required to spend on the health and well-being of the employees. They have to look at their safety. They have to ensure that the social distancing norms are being followed. the cost of sanitization. Also because of the social distancing norms, some manufacturing facilities have been impacted because you have to keep certain distance from each other. Naturally, the production lines had to be realigned. Some additional cost had to be incurred on realigning those. Major expenses had to be incurred on the repairs and maintenance of the plant. Many companies are also coming forward and vaccinating their employees, which is going to be additional cost. And also the overall hiring and the training cost has also gone up. Like many employees have simply not been able to attend the office. There have been some sort of retrenchments from the industry as well. So after the lockdown, to refill those vacancies, a lot of hiring and training related costs had to be incurred, which has directly impacted the bottom lines of the companies. Apart from the material and manpower, there have been increase in other costs as well. For example, the digitization of the various functions and operations. A lot of investments are being done in the digitization. So naturally, it has a positive impact on the IT industry, especially in the artificial intelligence and the big data kind of companies. Are flush with orders, so they are not able to recruit the right kind of people to do that. But the overall demand from the industry has suddenly spurted, and of course, it is going to add to the cost of the industry. There is also a increase in the overall IT infrastructure and services, especially from the work from home environment. When the servers have to be accessed from outside, the overall infrastructure has to be beefed up to ensure that that is possible. Many companies have to supply computers and laptops to their employees at their residences as well. And also create a bridge between individual residences and the server. Of course, a secure bridge, so as to ensure that they are able to access the data and work from the work from home environment. Another risk which comes with work from home is the data theft and cyber attacks. So there have been a lot of such similar cyber attacks over the last year or so, and some of the companies have faced major outages because of the same, and that includes loss of physical cash as well. Some of the production operations, especially in the material handling, a lot of companies have implemented the automation of those kind of operations, and that is going to impact the creation of the jobs as well. So Internet of Things, we were talking maybe a couple of years ago that it is going to come, but I believe that this COVID, what it has, the lockdowns have, what they have caused is that they have preponed the actual impact of Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence to at least by a couple of years. So things which were likely to come by 24, 25 are already here. And we have to face the fact that some of the activities that we are doing today for our clients, or some of the employees who are doing certain jobs, they may lose those jobs because they are no longer needed, because the computer or the robots are taking care of that. The repairs maintenance cost has also gone up, especially in certain industries which are continuous process industries, or which require some sort of a changeover. So because of frequent lockdowns, practically there have been multiple orders from the local authorities as well, and no one has been able to predict as to when our production is likely to be disrupted. And at each of those disruptions, there have been additional repairs and maintenance cost, and maintaining the machines have also been a challenge, and some of the machines have been damaged because of they were not maintained in time. Uh, Apart from the various costs, there has been one cost, which is the interest and finance charges. Uh, because of the pressure on the cash flow, some of the industries were required to fund their day-to-day expenses by taking additional loans. So it has increased their overall interest and finance charges. Of course, to a certain extent, because of the moratorium scheme which was announced by the RBI, companies were able to postpone the payment of interest and finance charges, but it has not gone away. It is practically there, and if not today, tomorrow they will have to pay those charges. And with the increase in the overall loan amounts, it could have a long-term impact on the financials of the companies as well. Um, One example that I would like to give over here about the automation, which has affected majority of the laborers who are toiling in the farms, is that because of the lockdown, many of these laborers went back to their towns and they were not willing to come back for the farms. So what has happened is there has been a substantial spurt in the tractors that have been purchased during the last year. If you look at the balance sheets of any of the tractor manufacturing company, there has been a lot of increase in the number of tractors that have been sold. As much as 50 to 60% higher demand was there. And once these farmers start using these tractors, the people who are toiling on their farms are no longer required, and this is definitely going to have a very, very long-term impact on the well-being of these people. There have been some sort of litigations and penalties for non-adhering to the timelines by some of the companies as well. And these are the costs which are not just the costs, but which are going to leave a bad taste amongst the business community. In case of the capital projects, also there have been a lot of cost overruns, and of course the time overruns. And time is money, so it's the time overruns are also over a period going to contribute towards higher costs of the projects. So there has been a non-availability of manpower, which I explained earlier for the production related manufacturing units. This challenge about the manpower to a certain extent has now been resolved, but still over the last year or so, at least a couple of months were lost because non-availability of the manpower. And there have been delays, both indigenous as well as imported supplies. The lead time required for supply of any component, especially critical components in case of capital projects, have definitely been affected. And there have been many technology partners who have shown their inability to post their experts on sites. Especially the availability of expat experts has been severely hampered because no one from the European world or the US is coming down to India to serve as technical experts in these critical projects. This is already covered, and of course the cash flow is something which has caused a major problem to many of the capital projects over the last year or so. Of course, when I say this, there are certain industries which in fact have got a boost because of the COVID-related issues, and then some of the industries are severely impacted. So just to list out a few, pharma and healthcare is one industry which has been thriving like anything over the last year, and practically every hospital and every pharmaceutical manufacturing company is flush with orders, and so has been the case with the insurance sector. The overall awareness in the market has increased multifold in the last year, and the new policies have multifolded like anything. Also, instead of the restaurant industry, there has been a lot of importance to the packaged food industry, and that is one industry that has shown a lot of growth last year, and I believe that that growth is here to stay. Last year, sometime in June, I had made a presentation wherein I stated that the presentation was the impact of COVID on the overall industry, and at that time I had stated that one industry which I believe would bounce back the first once the COVID related restrictions are removed is the automobile industry, and that in fact has happened, and that was primarily with the hope that because of COVID, people will prefer to have personal mobility than depend on the public transport facilities, and that has in fact happened. And many citizens have adopted to either two-wheelers or even cars, especially in the period from November to say March. The numbers of vehicles that have been sold by the not only in the domestic market but also in the export have been phenomenal. In fact, Maruti Motors, I think in February or March, sold the highest number of cars ever. So that is one industry that has bounced back, and so is the data analytics and the artificial intelligence IT. So we have already covered this in the earlier slides, that this is one industry that has got a lot of fillip during the last year, and one industry which has not done too well in the last year but which is likely to do excellent in the years to come because of higher expenditure by the government is the infrastructure industry. And of course the telecom industry, because of the work from home, because of the online meetings, the telecom industry is also done pretty well during 2021. As we say this, the real estate and the office space leasing industry has been worst affected because no one is investing in new offices. Many of the companies have terminated their contracts which were there on lease. Also, the hospitality businesses have been severely affected because practically the restaurants business has reached the point of no return. More than 40% of the restaurants had to be closed down during the last 1 year. So has been the travel and airlines. So all the airlines have been severely affected. Travel and tourism is something that we cannot think of at least for a couple of years more. And majority of the non-food retail has also been impacted, like the example of the clothes and discretionary spending which I gave you earlier. So the point which I am making over here is when we try to analyze the impact of the COVID on the costs and the treatment of the various cost elements, we have to bear in mind as to which industry are we serving and what has been the implications of COVID on that particular industry. That has to be assessed, and then the advisory has to be looked at, and the treatment has to be given accordingly. So last year there were 3 different advisories which were issued. One was issued by the Cost Accounting Standard Board under the leadership of Neeraj Joshi. That was on the treatment of various elements in comparison of the cost records, cost statements, and annexes to the cost audit report. Now, this advisory was specific to the year 1920. And this was issued rather fast. In fact, on 13th of April 2020, this was issued. You might remember that on 22nd March, we had a Janta curfew, and with effect from 25th of March 2020, India practically went into a nationwide lockdown. So in a matter of 15-20 days, our CASD board was able to come out with the advisory which was very good at that time. And after this, another advisory was issued by the Cost Auditing and Assurance Standard Board under the leadership of Ashish Thatte as to conducting the audit offline. So I will be taking that as well. And as a part of the cost audit report, there should be certain disclosures which we should be giving. And those disclosures were mentioned in an advisory given by the technical cell, which was at that particular point of time led by Mr. Dhananjay Joshi, or rather Dr. Dhananjay Joshi, our former president. As far as the advisory on the treatment of various elements of cost is concerned, this year there has been another advisory which has come in, and this advisory is dated 2nd April 2021, and this is for the year 2021. However, the advisory is pretty clear about the concept, because as far as the year 1920 is concerned, not much impact of COVID was there on the industry. Practically maximum of 15 days was lost in the worst case scenario, and because of the complete nationwide lockdown, it was actually only 5 to 6 days which was lost. So what the institute has done is they have clearly mentioned that the earlier advisory which was issued on 13th of April 2020, the same advisory will continue for the year 2021 as well. And so the next slides which I'm going to present are basically the same advisory which was issued last year, which has once again been circulated by the institute for the year 2021. So the advisory basically talks only about 2 or rather 3 aspects of cost. One is the abnormal cost. Number 2 is the capacity utilization and the impact of abnormal situation on the capacity utilization. And number 3 is the disclosures that are required to be done in the cost statements and the cost audit report. So as far as abnormal costs are concerned, the definition is pretty clear. It is given in Cost Accounting Standard number 1, and it has been repeated in many of the cost accounting standards thereafter as well. So abnormal cost is basically an unusual or atypical cost whose occurrence is usually irregular, unexpected, and or due to some abnormal situation. So the abnormal cost has been very, very clearly defined. There cannot be any doubt amongst any one of us that the situation that is created because of COVID, the lockdowns that have happened, the loss of production that has happened, the increase in cost that has happened, is all because of a situation created by COVID, and naturally all expenses which can be directly attributed to the COVID situation are abnormal costs. Of course, the advisory also clearly states that any abnormal cost where it is material and quantifiable shall not form part of the cost. So material and quantifiable is the key thing over here. Any cost which is not material need not be separately highlighted, and it can continue to form the part of the cost. So the advisory further says that the impact of COVID-19 pandemic fits the premise of abnormal cost as defined in the cost accounting standards, and hence the cost pertaining to or arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic shall be treated as abnormal cost. However, there is one more statement which has been done in the advisory, and which says that there could be certain expenses. There could be certain expenses which have in fact increased because of the situation. For example, because of the excess demand and reduction in the supply, there could be increase in the material cost. But those increases should be treated as part of the business and should not be separately highlighted as abnormal costs. Due to the supply chain disruptions, these are the wordings from the advisory. So, due to the supply chain disruption, if the input cost is increased, the same shall not be treated as abnormal cost and be accordingly included in the cost of production. So, the institute is quite clear about this also, that there is likelihood that because of the demand supply situation, because of the supply chain disruptions, some of the cost would have increased, especially the material cost, or one example which I gave you earlier, that there was a breakdown and a technician had to be called for repairing that. Now he is going to charge extra because in the current scenario he is coming in the lockdown kind of a scenario. Those costs should be continue to be a part of the cost of production. So what are the costs which we can term as abnormal costs? Very few examples have been given in the advisory itself. So number one is the variable cost, and number two are the fixed costs. So we have touched upon this in some of our earlier slides also. Just at the cost of repetition, the loss of raw material, work in progress, or finished goods on account of the quality deterioration. This was touched upon in the earlier slides. Loss of process material, consumables, etc. Abnormal transportation of supplies held up due to transit at ports. So any demurrage or extra rent that had to be paid, these are all the costs which are normally variable. Same with the idle employees. As a costing principle, we always have been treating direct employee related cost as variable cost. But in case of COVID, when the production is not happening and still those workers are required to be given salaries, so salary for that portion or that period wherein there was no production should be treated as abnormal cost and should be taken out of the cost records. Also, in case of fixed cost, all the costs relating to the period that the plant was shut down are naturally abnormal costs. The plant maintenance cost to restart the plant is also the abnormal cost, and so are certain administrative, saving and distribution, depreciation, insurance, rent. So basically, two kind of costs need to be carved out of the expense statement. Number one is the cost of non-functioning. So the period when the plant was practically non-operational, any cost that was incurred during that period is abnormal cost and it should be taken out, number one. Number two, any cost which is required to be incurred because of the COVID situation, irrespective of whether it was required to be incurred during the period when the plant was not working or the plant has started working, still this cost has to be incurred because the situation is abnormal. Of course, as far as the second part is concerned, the materiality will matter. For example, cost of sanitization or could get hidden in the overall cost of plant maintenance, and it could get difficult to identify those kind of costs. But wherever material, those costs have to be identified separately and have to be reported separately as a part of the abnormal costs. Interest once again, so the interest and the finance charges pertaining to the period of COVID have to be reported separately as abnormal costs. The interest cost for moratorium that has been availed. So, for example, because of the moratorium scheme announced by the Reserve Bank of India, during the period, certain period last year in the year 2021, interest was not required to be paid. But it was only deferment of interest. The interest cost is always there. So the cost relating to that period has to be carved out and shown as the abnormal cost. Interest on the additional funding that was required to be raised to tide down the lockdown also becomes a part of the abnormal cost. There is one more para in the advisory which I thought was not required because it is not exactly got anything to do with the advisory on treatment of cost. It is on the capital cost. And what that para states is that the cost of capital nature is out of the purview of the cost statements, which is basic costing principle. Existing operational facilities as well as the ongoing capital projects are to be treated separately, and any cost capital in nature shall be capitalized. So in short, what they are saying is any cost which is, or rather any additional cost which is incurred on the capital projects is to be capitalized and not to be shown as a abnormal cost or the regular cost. So in simple terms, that is what it comes to my mind. In the next slide, we have given a presentation wherein what could be the likely scenario in a company which was not operational for a period of 45 days during the year 2021. Now, in this company, typically what is going to happen is, because it was not operational for 45 days, all the expenses, typically fixed expenses like quality control, research and development, selling and distribution, interest and finance charge, that portion which was incurred during those 45 days needs to be carved out and shown as abnormal. Apart from that, there are certain additional expenses. So if you look at this statement, many of the places the abnormal cost as a percentage of the total expenses is 12.5%. In a few cases, this is more than 12.5%. For example, repairs and maintenance. For example, other production overheads, administrative overheads. So typically, these are the expense heads where, apart from the 45 days where the plant was not functional, there have been certain expenses incurred because of the COVID situation, like extra maintenance, like cost of various norms that have been imposed because of the COVID, the cost of vaccination. All these costs are over and above those 45 days and which also should be removed. Also, in case of variable cost, as I mentioned earlier, there could be certain expenses like in case of material consumed. There are some expenses which resulted because of losses because of the damage to the material because of the lockdown. It had to be thrown off, those kind of situations. Same with the utilities and certain direct expenses as well. So, of course, I will be sharing this presentation with all of you. I will be sharing it with Pune chapter, and I would request them to share it with all of you. These figures are real life figures in one of our clients. Of course, I have removed the name of the client, but just to get a sense as to what could be the likely impact on each of the expense head, to present that, we have shown this slide over here. Now, apart from the normal and abnormal costs, the advisory also talks about the capacity. So there are 2-3 definitions given, which are basically borrowed from our cost accounting standards itself. So the first definition is the installed capacity. So there could be some repetition in what I am saying, because those of you who could have attended the any other programs on cost accounting standards would have encountered these definitions. So installed capacity is the maximum capacity of producing goods or providing services according to the manufacturer's specifications. So typically for any industry, what is prescribed is the technical specifications of the machine should be looked at. And the technical specifications or the machine manual which comes along with the machine would give the production capacity of that machine. Now, if that technical specification is not available, typically it happens especially in case of old machines, wherein the documentation is not to be found, or it is irrelevant because of some changes or modifications in the machines. That is where a technical evaluation comes into force, and the production people are required to evaluate the existing manufacturing facility and then announce the installed capacity of the plant. The capacities of individual or interrelated production or operation centers also has to be taken into cognizance. Excuse me, I need to, because I'm attending this from my office and I'm only one here. Someone is calling. Hello. Hello. चेतना मॅडम आहेत तो बाहेर आहेत. कोण कोण बोलतोय? मी करायला सांगतो कॉल. Sorry, just excuse me for a minute. Good to see your staff still working despite you not paying any attention. This is typically a situation wherein there are two different plants, or one product of one plant is being sent to the other for certain processes and coming back to the plant. So the overall capacity of a plant could be affected because of the bottlenecks at the other plant as well. So those kind of situations should also be taken care of. And then within the same plant, there could be certain operational constraints or capacity of some critical machines could be bottlenecks. So the overall capacity of some of the machines could be say 100, but because of the bottleneck machines which are operating only at 80, the overall capacity of the plant becomes only 80. Those kind of situations also are required to be looked at. And then the number of shifts or machine hours or man hours is something which should be taken into cognizance for computation of the installed capacity. So just to give you an example, here is a situation wherein the capacity as per the technical specifications or the technical evaluation is say 1 lakh numbers per annum. However, there is a bottleneck machine because of which the capacity has to be brought down by 20,000 numbers. And because of the bottlenecks in the interrelated production centers, another 14,000 is brought down, and the installed capacity of the plant at full capacity is worked out as 1 lakh minus 20,000 minus 14,000, that is 66,000. Now, the standard also says that we have to also take into cognizance the number of shifts that the plant is operating. So, if the plant is operating only for 2 shifts, so naturally the capacity of this plant is going to be 44,000. However, typically in this kind of a scenario, what is going to happen is that those bottleneck processes of the bottleneck machines could operate for 3 shifts instead of 2. So, if we consider the bottleneck operations are operating for 3 shifts, then the overall capacity need not get affected because of the bottleneck of those machines. And in that kind of a scenario, the installed capacity working could look something like this, wherein 1 lakh is the technical specifications. There are no reductions on account of the bottlenecks. So the installed capacity at full capacity remains 1 lakh, and because of the 2 shift working, the installed capacity of the plant for 2 operating shifts is 66,600. So that is about the installed capacity. Now we come to the normal capacity calculations. So the definition of normal capacity as per the standard is also very clear. It says that the normal capacity is the production achieved or achievable. So it basically talks about the past as well as talks about the future. On an average, over a number of periods or seasons under normal circumstances, taking into account the loss of capacity resulting from planned maintenance. So in short, what is the production that has been achieved during the last number of periods could be your normal capacity. Going forward, the installed capacity adjusted by the loss of capacity resulting from planned maintenance can be your futuristic normal capacity. So, normal capacity can typically be worked out as the installed capacity less the time lost due to scheduled preventive or planned maintenance. Number of shifts impact has to be given here as well. So, if it is already given in the installed capacity, you need not repeat it while calculating the normal capacity. All the holidays, normal shutdown days, normal idle time days have to be adjusted. And of course, the time lost in the batch changeovers is also to be adjusted to work out the normal capacity. So, the calculation of normal capacity is given in the next slide, which also is shared with all of you. So taking the cue from the earlier calculation of the installed capacity, wherein we had worked out the installed capacity as 66,600. That was based on 2 shift working, and it was based on 365 days in a year. So for calculating the normal capacity, out of these 365 days, we are reducing the weekly offs 52, less the scheduled preventive or a planned maintenance of 12 days, less 8 holidays. I have in this example presumed that there is no time lost because of the batch changeover. So the available days are only 293 and not 365. So typically the normal production capacity would be 293 divided by 365 multiplied by 66,000, which works out to 53,500. So that's the normal capacity. Now, typically in case of COVID, the advisory states that the period lost due to COVID situation, including the partial or the full lockdown or the scaling down of manpower, needs to be adjusted and reduced. So in short, the advisory is talking about 3 different scenarios, that it is a full lockdown. So in case of complete lockdown, typically those number of days, whatever days have been lost due to COVID lockdown, have to be removed in the calculation of the normal capacity. That is number 1. Number 2, is in case of partial lockdowns. Just to give example, there were periods wherein the production was allowed only up to 3 p.m. So naturally, the plants could not work beyond 3 p.m. or 5 p.m., whatever was the lockdown period by local administration. So the period which was lost has to be built into the, or rather converted into the total days and reduced from the normal capacity. Also, because of the norms, the manpower also there are restrictions on the number of workers that could go to certain places. Of course, this is not prevalent across India. So, as cost auditors, you will have to take into cognizance as to which particular plant was affected and what was the impact of that on respective plants. And for considering the loss of production, the loss of productive days should alone be considered. So if you remember in the earlier calculations, we had already removed the days for the technical maintenance. So out of the total number of days wherein the plant was locked down because of COVID, there could be certain days which were already considered as preventive maintenance days or holidays or weekly offs. So that repetition should not happen. That is what the advisory clearly states. So only the balance days, after already taking into consideration the weekly offs, the holidays, the planned maintenance, after that what remains is because of the COVID pandemic, and only treatment of that should be given by removing the number of days from the normal capacity. Finally, you might have already studied this in some of our standards, that the fixed overheads are absorbed by the products based on the normal capacity or the actual capacity utilization, whichever is higher. So in cases where the normal capacity is higher, you have to go by that. Wherever the actual capacity utilization is there, the absorption should happen accordingly. I have given an example in the next slide just to understand this concept of absorption of fixed overheads. So I have looked at two different scenarios. One scenario, or rather in both the scenarios, the installed capacity is exactly the same, it is 100. Normal capacity as is calculated by giving deductions for the weekly off, the holidays, the plant maintenance and all. So those, after removing them, the normal capacity in both these scenarios is 70. Now in scenario 1, the actual production which is achieved is 75. Now higher of the two, 70 and 75 is 75. So for absorption purpose, 100% of the cost will be absorbed. However, in case 2, the actual production is only 56. So over here, what will be absorbed is 56 by 70, or only 80% of the fixed costs, and balance 20% will be unabsorbed and reflected as a reconciliation item. Now this example is very theoretical and basic in nature. So I am sharing with you in the next slide another example, which is a real life data in one of our clients who had 5 different plants. So you are all aware that the cost records are required to be maintained separately for individual manufacturing unit. So for each of the 5 plants, 365 days in a year are considered. After taking into cognizance the weekly offs and the holidays and planned maintenance, the available days in the year is 301 for all the 5 plants. The installed capacity as certified by the technical department of the company are given for 5 different plants separately. These are based on 365 days in a year. Now the normal capacity has been calculated as 301 divided by 365. So 13,66,000 multiplied by 365 gives me a figure of 11,26,000. So the normal capacity of each of the plants has been worked out. Now what has happened is, because of COVID, 96 days have been lost in plant A and 36 days have been lost in plant B. So the revised available days for working out the normal capacity are 205, that is 301 minus 96 and 301 minus 36 in case B. So 205 available normal days for plant A and 265 available normal days for plant B. So the revised normal capacity after taking into cognizance the period lost because of COVID lockdowns is, instead of 11,26,000, only 7,67,000 in case of plant A and 12,44,000 in case of plant B. So similarly, the revised normal capacity is worked out for all the 5 plants, and then it is compared with the actual production. Now, if you notice, in case of plant C and plant E, the actual production is more than the revised normal capacity. So considering the higher of the two, in case of plant C and E, we have absorbed 100% of the fixed costs, and in case of plant A, B and D, certain fixed costs remain unabsorbed. So this impact has been given plant-wise. So the entire calculation which we saw earlier, identification of the cost, bifurcation of the cost, has been done plant-wise, and the impact of the capacity utilizations have been given accordingly. Now, what would happen if things are not as simple as they are in this particular scenario? For example, there are no clear days lost. Every day there is some sort of disruption on account of lack of material, on account of lack of employees, and n number of other problems that could come in because of the COVID situation. And it is not possible to calculate the exact number of days that have been lost. So I have given another example over here wherein we have gone by the past data. So in this similar scenario of 5 plants, we have calculated the average capacity based on the last 3 years actual production figures, and we are turning that as the normal capacity and comparing the actual production with the normal capacity, and the difference between the actual production and the normal capacity is termed as abnormal capacity utilization or abnormal loss of capacity utilization. And accordingly, the impact has been given to respective plants for calculating the unabsorbed fixed costs. So in this case also a similar scenario is there. Of course, the figures would vary a bit because naturally there are other factors also when we take into consideration the actual production during the last 3 years. And one of the factors would always be the actual demand for the individual plants. But if you look at it, more or less the picture is looking similar. In earlier case, overall capacity of all the 9 plants put together was about 90%. Whereas if you go by the data of the last 3 years and compare it with the actual production during the current year, the capacity utilization is about 87%. But since the formula for the normal capacity takes into cognizance the past period also, just for the sake of repetition, the definition of normal capacity is the production achieved or achievable on an average over a number of periods or seasons under normal circumstances. So you could take the past performance of the company in terms of the actual production capacities over the last few years as well. The third part which I mentioned was about the disclosures. as far as the disclosures are concerned, disclosures are required to be made in 3 different paras. Number 1 is the para B1 or C1, which is the quantity information. So over here, the quantity of production capacity lost due to COVID-19 pandemic has to be specified separately. Then in para D2, that is the profit reconciliation, clearly it has to be mentioned what is the cost that is abnormal due to the COVID situation. Also, the government has now recognized any CSR contributions to COVID-related organizations who are helping the government in the COVID scenario. Those contributions are also recognized as a part of the CSR. So it is recommended that the CSR costs, so you are all aware that normally any sort of CSR cost, we always show it separately as in the profit reconciliation. However, the CSR cost is required to be, or it is advised by the institute that the CSR cost should be reported separately as CSR for COVID-19 and other CSR activities. So clearly, what is the CSR relating to COVID-19 can be highlighted in our reports, and if the government wants, they can also get this information readily available. Similarly, the abnormal cost due to COVID-19 pandemic is also required to be reported as a separate line item with the description. In fact, the advisory also states that the description to be used should also be the same, so that it will be simple for the government, if at all they wish to collect information from all the cost audit reports, just to understand what has been the overall unabsorbed cost because of the COVID-19 situation. And then in CRA 3, that is the cost audit report, under the observations and suggestions, it is recommended that the cost element-wise breakup of COVID-19 unabsorbed cost should be given, because in the P&L reconciliation, we are stating a single line item and all the costs are clubbed together in a single line item. But the breakup can be given in the observations and suggestions to the cost audit report. And the quantity information pertaining to the pandemic impact, that is the capacity utilization, the idle capacity due to COVID, impact on the production, etc., can also be given as a part of the observations and suggestions. So this is about the advisory by the Cost Accounting Standards Board about the treatment to be given for cost, the impact on the capacity utilization, the impact on the absorption of fixed overheads, and the disclosures. As I mentioned earlier, apart from this, the Cost Auditing and Assurance Standard Board had also come up with certain advisory. So that advisory is quite simple. I'm just summarizing it in a single slide. So this advisory was issued on 10th of June 2020. One important thing which this advisory does is that it recognizes the need for remote auditing, because there are 4 cost auditing and assurance standards that have been mandated so far. And some of those standards require the physical presence of the auditor on the audit site. So the advisory clearly mentions that because of the need of the hour, remote auditing with due procedures is acceptable. It also clearly mentions that any relaxation granted by the government from compliance under the provisions of Companies Act 2013 will automatically be applicable to the cost auditing standards issued by the institute. And this is a normal practice, because finally the cost auditing standards are issued based on the mandate given by Section 148 of the Companies Act. So the Companies Act 2013 shall always prevail, and so any relaxations given under the Companies Act will naturally flow to any enactments done under the Companies Act or rules framed under the Companies Act. And in case of any conflict between the standards and the relaxation provisions of the Act, the relaxed provisions shall prevail. So these are the three very important factors as far as the advisory by the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board is concerned. Then, as I mentioned, the technical cell had also given certain formats for the disclosures in the audit report. There is not much to discuss over here, so I will quickly just run you through the various formats. So it is advised that at 3 or 4 specific points, some disclosures and some declarations are required to be given. And one such instance is the impact of COVID lockdown on the operations of the company. So the suggested, of course, what I have used over here is not exactly what has been prescribed by the technical cell. We have made certain modifications for our clients, which are given over here. So the operations of the company during the year ended so and so, where marginally this 31st March 2020 will be 31st March 21 in case of audits for 2021, were marginally or seriously affected due to COVID lockdown announced by the central or state governments in the month of March due to the outbreak of novel coronavirus. Due to the lockdown announced by the government, the operations of the company were shut down for around so and so days. So basically, what this disclosure gives is that in your calculation of the capacities, the total of days lost because of COVID, that can be highlighted by this disclosure. There can be another line over here that the actual lockdown was for only so many days, but because of the after effects of the lockdown, there is an additional impact of so many days on the production of the plant. That kind of disclosure can also be given over here. The second disclosure is about the physical visits to the plant. So as I mentioned earlier, in certain cases, it is important that the physical visits happen. Of course, this is once again, we have added the last sentence. The lockdown and restrictions continued during the year 2021, and this has resulted into serious restrictions on travel. Hence, there have been limitations on the physical visits to the head office, units, plants, etc. of the company. In light of the said travel restrictions, we have not visited the head office, units, plants, etc. of the company. So, of course, this kind of disclosure is required to be given only where you have actually not been able to go. There are instances where the offices of the clients are operational and they are requesting the auditors to visit. So if you or your team has actually visited to those plants, then you might as well say accordingly. The third one is about the online auditing methods and techniques that have been used. So this is also pertaining to the cost auditing and assurance standard, where certain mandate was given and which could not be followed because of the situation. So wherever the meetings have taken place over audio or video conferences, this particular disclosure is specifically as far as those kind of and one more important thing is, wherever we have relied upon the electronic data, representations from the management has to be taken, and that has to be disclosed accordingly. Finally, the last sentence of this disclosure is very important, that the audit evidence obtained by us is adequate to express our audit opinion. So you are making a statement that despite the hindrances, you are not able to make physical visits, you have relied upon the online auditing methodologies and techniques. And because of that, you have conducted the audit in a different manner. However, you have been satisfied. So if you are not satisfied, you have to clearly qualify the report. If the client has not been able to give you satisfactory replies online, you have to clearly qualify your report and mention it accordingly, instead of making this kind of a statement that the audit evidence obtained by us is adequate to express the audit opinion. Also, in case of the physical inventory count, we have not been able to, or rather, even the companies have not been able to conduct the physical inventory as on 31st of March 2020 as well as 21, because even in 31st March 21, some part of the country had started going under the lockdown. So there are specific disclosures which are required to be done in those cases also. And some sort of roll forward techniques have been used by the companies. So disclosures for that also have to be specifically given in our cost audit report. Lastly, there is an additional disclosure which is not a part of the advisory by the technical cell, which we are giving and which is included over here, that we have followed the advisory on auditing and assurance assignments during the period of lockdown and restrictions on traveling, and advisory on treatment of various items of cost in light of the COVID-19 pandemic presentation. Disclosures of such items of cost in CRA 3 issued by the Institute of Cost Accountants of India to the extent relevant and applicable. So this is another additional disclosure which we are giving. As I said earlier, this presentation will be shared with the chapter, and the chapter will circulate it to all those who have attended today. So that is all from my end. If at all there are any questions, I am happy to take those. So, you're right, we did cross 100.
Yes, sir. Actually, there are some questions in chat box. I will take one by one. First one is, question is from M. Tanu Subramani. Capitalization depends on whether project is live or shelved. If live, salary to be created to capex, otherwise to P&L. Is it not? That's the question. The guidance on the segregation and treatment of normal and abnormal cost incurred in 2020-21 is clear. What about first quarter 21-22? The companies are operating under the new normal, and we see a major shift in the cost structures.
Okay, so I think Anuradha madam has given this question.
Right.
So basically, the advisory which was issued in April 2021 is for the year 2021. So any audits for the financial year up to March 21 have to follow this advisory. That is what has been mentioned in the same. So as far as quarter 1 of 2021-22 is concerned, I believe the institute should be coming up with the next advisory for the financial year 21-22. And I tend to agree to a certain extent that majority of the companies have now adopted to the new normal, and some of the costs which we must identify as abnormal cost for the year 2021 need not be abnormal for the year 21-22, because that is likely to be the new normal, and some of those costs will continue to be incurred year after year. Yeah, but from the chapter side, I would strongly recommend that this suggestion can be passed on to the institute so that they can incorporate the same while coming out with the advisory for the year 21-22.
Right, sir. One more question from Chetan Gandhi. In case of common capacity for all the products, then how capacity is to be calculated for pandemic?
Like, can you repeat the question?
In case of common capacity for all the products,
Hmm.
then how capacity is to be calculated?
Okay, so as I understand from the question, the concept of equalization will not work in this kind of a scenario, because at the time of calculating the capacity for in a normal scenario, normally what we do is we calculate separate capacities for separate products, and then work out equitable capacity based on the various capacities of various products. So, according to Chetan's question, that may not be possible, and he is talking about a scenario where he is using a common, or maybe that common capacity is a equalized capacity itself. So for COVID purpose also, the same concept can be adopted. Uh, the way you have calculated the normal capacity in the normal scenario, out of that, what you have to remove is the days lost because of the COVID lockdowns, and the capacity for the period which is lost because of the COVID lockdown. The capacity for that can be calculated on similar basis that has been used for calculating the normal capacity in a non-COVID scenario, and that should be removed from the capacity to work out the revised normal capacity.
One more question from Mr. Ramshankar Mishra. In financial report, there no abnormal or normal expenses breakup. So how
Yes.
to segregate the same in cost records?
So that is where the role of the cost accountant is of pivotal importance. Typically, what happens is in some of the cases I have observed that the cost statements are prepared based on the trial balance given by the company. So without getting into the nitty-gritties and the details of individual expenses, the trial balance, which is already audited by the financial auditor, is simply presented or rather simply bifurcated into various products to work out the product-wise cost sheets, which is not exactly the intention of maintaining cost records or cost audit. So it is the duty of the cost auditor to get into the details of individual expenses and identify those expenses. Even in a normal scenario, that duty remains with the cost auditor to get into the details of individual expense heads and identify those expenses which are possibly avoidable or where cost optimization can be done by the companies. And in fact, that will be a very good value addition to the company in a normal scenario as well. Now, in a COVID-like situation, in fact, this factor becomes even more prevalent, because it is very important even from the company's point of view to identify those costs which are incurred only because the situation of COVID prevailed in the country. So what are the costs that the company has incurred because of the COVID-like situation? Even the company will be interested in knowing that, and it is the responsibility of the cost auditor to get into those details and highlight those costs separately in the P&L reconciliation. Shrikant, I observe there are a few more suggestions also given, especially by Anuradha Madam. So maybe all those can be collated and
value
institute, because some of the questions are also relevant to the institute, and there are some suggestions for the way ahead as well.
right. And one more question from Anuradha Madam. Does the institute intend to recommend into normal capacity? Is that you said it's related to institute?
So once again, this is a question to the institute.
Okay.
I should not be answering, even though I may have some information on this.
Anuradha Madam has raised the hand during session. Madam, do you want to speak something? Do you have any question?
Yes. What I have observed in a few cases is companies have undertaken production at a higher cost, especially in cases of pharma or other related products like industrial alcohol. just because now the prices are so high that they would like to take advantage. So they may have augmented their capacities, they may have run additional shifts and produced so that they could sell at higher prices. So in these cases, what happens is, even if you look at the inventory, they are rather inflated. Although they are at cost because it is lower than realizable value, that cost is not really what would be otherwise the normal inventory cost. So what is, in your opinion, the treatment to be given to this additional cost? Because it has been incurred for making quick changes to the capacity and increasing the output.
So basically, as I understand, this is a business decision taken by the company, that
Right.
they want to take the benefit of the higher demand, and that is why they have incurred this additional expenses a bit at a higher cost. So if you look at the slide on abnormal cost in my presentation, over there the advisory clearly states that any increase in cost due to the supply chain disruption shall not be treated as abnormal cost and accordingly included in the cost of production itself. So I think if you by the plain reading of the advisory, I think these costs are to be treated as a part of the
Yes, yes.
business.
That I understand. It is to be treated as a part of the cost. But if you start comparing the inventory, what is to be inventorized and what is to be considered as a period cost, that is where my question lies.
No, but for period cost, those will be capitalized. No? So depreciation is one cost which will increase over a period of next few years because some of the capital expenses have been incurred at a higher cost. So I would, my stand still would remain the same, that the impact of the higher cost that has been incurred can be either revenue in nature or capital in nature. So if it is capital in nature, it will slow down to the next few years till those newly created assets are under utilization. But conceptually, it remains the same, that this is a cost incurred because of certain situations, and that cost is higher because of the COVID-related restrictions. But it has to be treated as part of the cost.
Right, that is fine. Like it has to be treated as a part of cost, but I'm specifically talking about inventorizing that cost. Like if you have outsourced some of the production to somebody at a higher rate than what your normal cost would have been, and those items are like
your selling price is also higher, right?
Right. The selling price is higher, so your inventory value is going to be, let us say, either weighted average or FIFO.
I appreciate that, but to certain extent, the inventory valuations will go higher.
Yeah. So would the auditor be required to comment on it as to the difference in the last year's and current year's inventory, or would you suggest some other treatment?
It could be quite difficult to get into the details of the inventory valuation which was done last year as compared to the inventory valuations done this year. Especially in the present circumstances, I presume that the products which have been manufactured by the company are in tremendous demand in the market. That is the only reason why the company has gone out of the way and invested something extra. So commenting on that, maybe we can have a single comment that the value of inventory may not be comparable because of these conditions where the costs have gone higher. But I doubt whether getting into the details of the valuation process will give any results for the cost audit exercise. From the management point of view, it could be a good exercise to analyze the additional cost and take a futuristic decisions, which naturally will get reflected as far as the product cost sheet is concerned. But as far as the inventory valuation is concerned, I don't think major disclosures are required, apart from one statement which I already said.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Rahul has raised a hand. Rahul, can you speak?
Yes. Actually, sir, you have, I believe you have already covered, but just a discussion point
So normally when the extension to the similar discussion which you were saying about closing stock valuation, normally when we do the D2, that is profit reconciliation, normally the AS2 valuation of closing stock we consider. But I believe that this
Not
time
in-
many of the no, not always, but now I think many of the companies in cost audit at least there will be difference in closing stock valuation as per finance and closing stock as per cost accounting. So what do you think? Because I think in all of the companies I believe there will be an impact, but I have seen that the AS2 valuation when they are doing, they are ignoring the impact of this COVID. So what do you think? Every cost audit should have the impact.
It has to have. In fact, forget COVID. Even in the earlier scenario, when COVID was nowhere there, the intention of having a separate line item about the difference in valuation as per cost records and difference in valuation as per financial records was this, that any adjustments done in the financial records would get highlighted in the reconciliation statement. So even in the earlier scenario, it is expected that you should value the inventory as per the cost of production, and any difference between the inventory as per the cost of production as per the cost records and the inventory valuation as per the financial books, that gap is to be shown separately in the reconciliation. So we should insist on that, especially in the COVID scenario.
Okay, correct.
And even after we ride over the present trouble, we should continue showing it separately.
True.
So I request participant, is there any questions? If you have any question, please unmute yourself here and ask the question. We have another 5 minutes. Divya Darshan, madam, you have raised the hand.
Hello, sir. Sir, my name is Dia Darshan, and I am recently qualified cost accountant, and I got job in a company where I'm doing cost audit for the first time. So, could you suggest something that how should I approach it, and what are the things I should take care while doing so? It's a broad question. It's a
This is a
broad question. I'm
very
just, yeah.
So Dia, what I suggest, if you have already taken down my details in the chat box, let us take this question offline. I would be happy to help whatever way you would like, because this could require a more detailed and elaborate discussion. Have you already noted my number, or I will just type it out here?
Please type it out.
So it's there in the chat box. My email ID I am giving over here. You are free to approach me anytime, and we can take this offline.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Is there any questions from participants? So I believe there is no questions. Ms. Sai Lakshmi Mudliar, you can speak. You raise your hand. Please unmute and speak. So Mr. Chetan Gandhi. Mr. Chetan.
There is one more question. Whether institute has any cost accounting policy regarding costing of scrap material generated. To my understanding, there is no such. There is a standard on scrap, but costing of scrap, at least to my mind, it's not there. Yeah, Chetan, you wanted to ask something?
So, as a formal vote of thanks, I request Rahul to go ahead with the vote of thanks.
Thank you, CMA Shrikant. Sir has very lucidly explained all the impacts, and I must say on outset that this is the best way of presenting, because though he has started with the entire basic impact of COVID then he has finally reached to the main topic, and then again he has explained variety of examples. And apart from the knowledge which we have received, I think we should I have got one more side, from larger side to the narrow side, how we can take the same topic. So this is the one of the best way of presenting the topic in a very different way. So I once again congratulate and also thank you, Amit Apte sir, for giving such an excellent presentation on very much required topic, because now we all are in the already in the process of either completing or to some industry starting the cost audit. And for 2021 this was really a necessary, and we are really happy to have this series, cost audit series, the third session, which was on the COVID impact, how we can assess. And I'm sure that when we are going to have the annexures to the cost audit report, definitely this cognizance of all small points, including the how many days it was closed, or maybe for how many shifts the the factory was working, or what are the actual abnormal activities has happened, any new investment happened or not, or all the impacts, at least for the purpose of calculating cost of production and inventory valuation. Definitely we will be really helpful to have this kind of presentation. And I once again thank you for giving the practical aspect as well, because normally just by plain reading of that advisory, sometimes we don't get the exact requirement. But sir, you have explained us very correctly, and it will definitely help us. And I again thank you to all participants to asking the very relevant question, which has again made the this discussion more interesting. So I thank you to all participants. I also take this opportunity to thank you to our staff who has done this all activity of sending mail and creating links and everything. So I once again